Hello everyone, what is up? Hopefully you guys are having an amazing day. Today we're going to be talking about what's happening with XRP in the XRP community. Now in CoinMarketCap, XRP is above 20 cents. Bitcoin has just been stable, but you guys were commenting on a lot of coins on yesterday's video. But I think I'm going to take more of a look into Cardano, which I hold a very small position in, but I think I'm going to do more research on Cardano. Guys, before we jump into news, I'd like to say I'm not a financial advisor, nor is financial advice. It's just for entertainment value only. The Cryptic Poet tweeted out.
How many of you know the difference between payment and settlement? Not too many? A couple. All right, so let me just give you just a high level on this. I go to a restaurant and I pay with my Visa card, and they let me go and they don't call the police saying that I left without paying for my food. That's a payment. But I still have to pay my credit card bill, and somebody still has to wire money to the restaurant, right, or ACH or whatever payment system they use. The payment has not been settled. Traditionally, payment and settlement have been completely bifurcated into completely separate systems. SWIFT is a payment system that doesn't do anything with settlement. And the problem with that is it makes it hard to do a good payment because, like, you don't know if the recipient, you can't check the validity of the recipient. You don't know necessarily what the fees are going to be, what the exchange rate's going to be when the payment settles. So we built a system that, and the only reason they've been separated in institutional payments is historic. These systems date back from the old days when people had giant wheels of magnetic tape, and the tape was like on the bank's transaction computer during the day, and someone would physically carry it over to the settlement computer that talked to the other banks at night. And there was no way to settle during the day because the tape had to be on the computer that was handling the bank's transactions. It had to go to the settlement computer when it was done. I'm not joking. I'm serious. If you look at your glitzy like front-end application for your bank, and it's all really cool, and you can access it on your phone, and it's all really, it's 21st century, but you scratch just a couple of layers below the surface, and it's like you took a time machine. If you're lucky, you're in the mid to late 70s. Like, that's when these systems that plumb the movement of money were built, and they are breaking down. Even if blockchain completely fails, even if all cryptocurrencies are a bust, the payment world is going to change because it's terrible.
Even blockchain completely fails. Even if all cryptocurrencies are a bust, the payments world is going to change because it's just terrible. Because it's terrible, so it has to change. This comes from XRP Yo-Yo.
But I think of it as about being related to building bridges and tunnels into and out of the new digital world, and those bridges and tunnels have to link to the world of the status quo, or we will end up with exactly the situation that was mentioned earlier, where you have fragmentation of markets and even more complexity and increased illiquidity relative to the alternative. So the building of bridges and tunnels to connect existing assets into digital rendition is important, and who more important and who better situated than an incumbent centralized service provider of that nature.
But all day long, including when I started my first speech, we talk about the need for cooperation and everybody being collaborative, and this is a technology that will work if the industry bands around it.
Yep.
Do we have a chance?
Yeah, no matter what the good intentions are of an industry or participants thereof to set standards, to agree on things on an a priori basis, it's really difficult to do that until you actually start trying to use a technology or run a business in the context of whatever the task in hand actually is. What is the major obstacle to adoption here? And everybody correctly cites lack of standardization or the challenge of reaching standards as an obstacle. That's correct. But I believe that equally, without trying, you don't have the ingredients that will propel organizations to reach and create forums to reach standards. You've obviously seen during the course of the last year to 18 months the first serious undertakings in terms of multi-party trials of this technology, albeit in an mostly experimental context. But that has led directly to collaborative work, whether it was the multi-bank, multi-technology provider experiment conducted by R3 recently, which has been mentioned a couple of times, non-trivial organizational undertaking.
We built bridges and tunnels for the new digital world. Listen to this, it will blow your mind. So guys, XRP the standard. Boy, XRP tweeted out.
So I look at the Fed today, and I'm sure there are bankers here in the window or in the audience. And if you want to go and call on the Fed for liquidity, you go to the Fed window. You don't get cash. You get digits in a ledger. Mm-hmm. And so when, I'm JP Morgan and I go to the Fed's saying, okay, great, here's some sort of ledger change. It's already digitized. So I've actually been a little bit of a skeptic that central bank digital assets do much that we don't already do today.
So you don't think the dollar should be tokenized?
It already is. You think about it, like how many people here, like you look at your net worth statement on a bank account and like those are just digits. Yes, you could go to the bank and get cash, but frankly, if you're asking for any more than a few $1,000s, you have to call in advance because they don't have the cash. So most of the US dollar is, quote, I mean, you said tokenized, I would say digitized. There is a little bit of a difference, but I think we always have to go back to what problem are we trying to solve? Mm-hmm. If we're solving a problem or creating customer value, then I think it's great. The only argument I have seen around central bank digital assets is if they want to expand the Fed window from serving a small number of regulated institutions to a mass audience. If everybody here could go directly to the Fed and have an account with the Fed, well, that's kind of interesting. Now we just put the entire commercial banking business out of business.
It's already digitized, guys. Once again from Boy XRP.
I think we look at it, or now let's put my personal views. I do believe it'll go to zero. I think it's a great technology, but I don't believe it's a currency. It's not based on anything. If it became the standard currency, and because of the proof of work model that it sits on, if it got to what would be called the gold standard back in the 70s, the dollar was pegged against the gold standard. If Bitcoin was pegged against gold standard, which is about $7 trillion-ish, it would be responsible for 20% of the world's CO2 production. So just by that alone tells you it's not going to be the go-forward thing, at least from my view.
Glenn, you mentioned in an article at the start of 2018, you said Bitcoin could turn out to be a winner. It could also turn out to be Betamax. Have you figured out what it ultimately is going to be in the year since you made those comments?
So I'm much less interested in and investing around Bitcoin as a currency unit or currency equivalent, or even the blockchain as an accounting ledger, and I'm thinking much more about the protocols. In other words, what is the underlying protocol going to do as a consequence of which tokens are valuable or not, right? And where we sit today, by the way, one thing I would say is this notion of, I first came to Davos 2002, people all told me that the internet was dead because the internet stocks were all down by 90%. I said, no, I think we have a little bit left to show you in that space. So I don't think you can make any judgment about the potential for this industry as a consequence of what happened to the value of the tokens over the last 12 months. I think that's just wrong-headed thinking. But the way to think about the value of the tokens is as a derivative of the value of the use value of the protocols that they enable. As a consequence of which I think he's largely right that Bitcoin will not be the major use coin in the industry, but I do think we could find ourselves in a way in which because it's the most secure and the most decentralized, it could be the place where we store the value. That's creating the other coins that might be in more of a proof of stake rather than proof of work, less secure, less decentralized, but easier to use kind of format. We can come back to all that later if you'd like.
So it's often described by many people as a digital gold. Is that where you see perhaps
MTV Media tweeted, XRP is likely to overtake Bitcoin. Hard truth, and I'm not happy about it. And then once again, I've thrown in the towel with XRP. I'm just going to keep buying more of it because I know it is a new world reserve. So guys, it looks like more and more people are looking to buy XRP. Now guys, we're into the fun part of XRP and the XRP community. Now this is quite interesting. Jack the Rippler tweeted out, if XRP is going to become a settlement currency for the financial industry, then it will hit $100,000 per XRP. I know it's a dream, but it's a realistic dream. XRP the standard. Anything is possible, guys. Anything is possible. Next tweet comes from Peter Pumpkin, XRP. Never forget that it took just 22 days for XRP to go from 20 cents to nearly $4. Never forget that, guys. Zero doubt. Lucy tweeted out, in conclusion, Bitcoin will die. When Bitcoin dies, all coins will die. Except one, guys. Except one. Which is Next tweet comes from Ian Northing. We can see right here, we can see how this picture connects with Mr. Pool's video right there. Quite interesting. Final tweet for today's video comes from XRP HODL. Mr. Pool latest post. We can see he posted all of this, and then as well as this. Now, what do you guys think about his post? It is quite interesting. But anyways, guys, hopefully you guys did enjoy today's video. If you guys did, please leave a like, subscribe if you guys haven't already. I'll see you guys in the next video. Hopefully you guys are having an amazing day. And you guys, see ya.
This is the beginning of the greatest economic cycle this country has had since World War II. And I knew the things that Donald would do. And he hasn't even got started. But this is the eye of the motherfucking storm, the perfect storm. It ain't never going to get any better. Never. This is perfect for the QLA model. If I could have written a prescription or a formula, I couldn't have written it any better. Low interest rates, money's free, you stupid. Massive chaos. And Donald's going to rip the mother economy apart. And he's going to for practice in a good way. This is it. It ain't never going to get anything better. This is like a multiple orgasm the rest of your life, you fucking slags that are in the audience. This is it.
Sometimes I don't want to hear what Dan has to tell me. But as I wrote in one of my blogs, the old man, he's always right. Because he's telling you what you don't want to hear about yourself, but what you know is true. And that is, you're not stepping yourself up. You're not stepping your game up. And you get caught up in fear. As Dan says, false expectations appear in reality.